I'm just so grateful to be alive so I can continue to help people.
Oh my gosh, look at the harbor.
A mountain fire in Hawaii not only burned the lives of hundreds of Americans and incinerated huge assets, it burned away the mask of government hypocrisy in one fell swoop. Hawaii is not as important as Ukraine. Give $700 to the victims in Hawaii, but give almost $100 billion in aid to Ukraine. The media glorifies the greatness of Ukraine's fight against Russia, and the news reports are full of stories about the sanctity of the war, which attracts almost everyone's attention. At the same time, however, the fires on the island of Maui in the state of Hawaii are so silent that the federal government remains indifferent after hundreds of people have died and more than 1,000 are missing. On August 8th, smoke rolled over the town of Lahaina in Maui County, Hawaii. The fire broke out all over the earth. By September, U.S. officials had confirmed the death toll from the Maui, Hawaii, fire at 1:15, but there were more people unaccounted for, and it was unclear exactly how many would be killed. The fire has so far caused tens of thousands of people to be displaced. More than 2,200 buildings have been destroyed. Property damage is estimated to be billions of dollars. The seaside resort town of Lahaina into ruins. The Hawaii fires are the deadliest disaster event in the United States in more than a century. The New York Times published an article that shock and grief have gradually been replaced by anger and skepticism about the government's response in the early days of the disaster. Now, 2 months after the fires, the investigation into the causes of the Hawaii wildfires is still struggling to get off the ground. In the face of public accusations and media questions, the Biden administration, under unbearable pressure, and finally made the decision to compensate each affected family $700 Out of the expected, this behavior will be the public's emotions directly ignited, is only worth $700. And the president of the 2 years spent on Ukraine, the assistance, the president's aid to Ukraine over the past 2 years has amounted to nearly $100 billion. And how many people are there in Ukraine? By this comparison, American lives are too cheap to look at. US presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy took a blunt shot at Biden on social media. He pointed out that US taxpayer money is paying the salaries of Ukrainian public officials. Yet in the face of the fires in Hawaii, the citizens of the island are left to their fate. The comments resonated with many, including Musk, the world's richest man, who said in a comment that it was absolutely right. US Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican, also spoke out in Congress, questioning why our government sends so much aid to Ukraine while ignoring the devastation here at home. These critical voices highlight the discontent and make people wonder if the Biden administration has strayed from the interests of its own people. The administration seems to be caught up in an over-obsession with Ukraine, ranking first globally in the amount of aid provided to the country. However, in the face of this natural disaster, the Biden administration has become slow and even lost in its actions. In order to get congressional approval, Biden even confused delayed funding with disaster relief funding, making one wonder whether this is the President of the United States or the President of Ukraine. On the one hand, Ukraine's counteroffensive did not reach the expected success, and most European countries chose to remain silent in the face of this situation and hesitated to continue to assist Ukraine. The United States wants to persuade European countries to continue large-scale assistance to Ukraine in this context. I'm afraid the difficulty is not small. On the other hand, the Biden administration is also facing its own internal pressure. Current aid funds have almost been exhausted, and the US still has many domestic problems to solve, not just the fires in Hawaii. Republicans have begun to push for Biden's impeachment, and Biden's son Hunter is facing a more rigorous investigation. In retrospect, the fires in Maui, Hawaii, have become a litmus test that not only exposes the vulnerability of modern societies in the face of natural disasters, but also reveals the trade-offs in government priorities when dealing with crises. The Biden administration's disproportionate focus on Ukraine has sparked widespread criticism, and people have begun to question whether they are putting the interests of their own people on the back burner. So what do we see on the news? Still the same bluster about the war in Ukraine, support for Zelensky, and the Hunter Biden scandal being as selectively ignored as it is by the residents of the Hawaiian island of Maui. That's why I say that these things, the current events that are happening right under our noses, are both absurd and demonstrate the horrific nature of the media's freedom of the press. My friends, is there anything more frightening than reality? Is this freedom of the press and freedom of speech?